Okay, so good evening everyone. Today we will discuss the anatomy and subjective data for assessment of the musculoskeletal system. We will start with the anatomy. Now this slide I will show you unsa nga atong overview or the topics that we will discuss today. Ato pay added to that the subjective data. First is the function of the bones. Now the first function of the bones is obviously body support. Okay? Rigid, strong bone is well suited for weight bearing. Okay? It is well suited for weight bearing. Meaning to say, our bones act as the internal structure that carries most of our weight. Diba? Carries most of our weight. Now, before we start, I have two things to tell you. First is our tendons. Tendons, class, usually they will connect what? Something like connect. They will connect muscles to bones. We also have what we call our ligaments, no? Ato mga ligaments. Our ligaments will connect bone to bone. Okay, namdumi na siya. Those are the key terms, no? Key terms. Okay. Aside from being able to have an effect on weight bearing, it also has an effect on what we call our gait. Okay, gait class is the posture or the way we walk, okay. Next is organ protection. Organ protection is mainly or mostly done by our flat bones. Okay, mostly done by our flat bones. For example, class, our cranium, okay, or our skull, these are made out of flat bones and they will protect what we call our brain. Okay, that is the second function. The third function is body movement, specifically through the use of what we call our joints. Now, class, there are a few types of joints, which we will discuss later, but when it comes to body movement, we are talking specifically about synovial joints. We are talking specifically about synovial joints. Mo ni siya, class, these are the types of joints that are movable. Okay? These are the type of joints that are movable or movable joints. Okay. Next is mineral storage. Now, mineral storage, the bones store two principal or primary minerals. The first is the calcium, and the next is phosphorus. Now, if you do not know the normal and abnormal if you do not know the normal and abnormal lab findings when it comes to calcium in phosphorus, always remember, class, that calcium is 9 to 11. 9 to 11. Wait. 9 to 11. Ito. The awards. 9 to 11 milligrams per deciliter. While our phosphorus, class, usually it is 2 to 4 milligrams per deciliter. Muna siya yung normal lab values. Okay? Now, these two, kini silang duha, they are governed. Pamina mo? They are governed by what we call our endocrine system. Ang ilang amount, it is governed or controlled by the endocrine system. Mainly, we have two hormones. The first is the calcitonin, and the next is your parathyroid hormone. Okay, calcitonin, class, it is released in your thyroid gland, while your parathyroid obviously is released in your parathyroid gland. Okay. Now, first, class, the calcitonin, it will increase calcium in bones. Okay? Meaning to say, if taas ang calcium in bones, it will make the bones more rigid. While our parathyroid hormone will increase calcium in the blood. Okay, it will move the calcium, no? The parathormone or parathyroid hormone will move the calcium from the bone towards the blood. Okay, making bones much more thinner. Okay? Much more thinner. Pero it has a it is a balancing act. Okay, it is a balancing act. And lastly, blood cell production. This is mostly done by what we call our flat bones as well. Flat bones. Okay? Nasa atong flat bones class there, we can find mostly atong red bone marrow, our red bone marrow, and our yellow bone marrow. Okay? Ang kining red class mo na siya ang mo create. This is the one that will create our RBC. No, our red blood cell. Our red blood cell. Okay, so mo na siya no, iyang mga main functions. Now, before we proceed, class, no, we will discuss a little bit about skeletal nomenclature. I would like you to take note of this, no? Tagaan natin mo example on how this is used. Okay, so for example, first, we will discuss the body and shaft. When we are drawing a bone or there's a bone, class, kana, the middle part is what we call, or the main portion is what we call the body and shaft. Okay? The head, class, the head is this part, kini. Kana, that is the head. On both sides, okay? Both sides, muna silang head, kana. That is the head. Okay? The neck, class, the neck, the constricted area between the head and the body is usually this part here. Usually, mo constrict mo na siya, class, it will become smaller. Mura na siya ingani. It looks like this, no? If this is my bone, okay, long bone, ha? It will become smaller, constricted here, and then it will eventually enlarge. Mura siya ingana, no? So, siya ingana, like that. This one here is what we call the neck. Okay? But dili siya nga naka-pronounce, no? And mo na siya, no? That is how we use it, no? Napot tay gitawag nga rin na, let's say for example kining atong condyle. Okay? A condyle is, for example, di ba mo na siya atong bone. Okay? And let's say for example this is our humerus, di ba? Humerus. Okay? Kasi di ba ball and socket joint na siya. The condyle is the one that is the ball kini. Kaya bitong connected sa imuhang socket. No, connected sa imong socket, that is the condyle. It is a smooth, rounded, articular surface. So, take the time, no, to read this so that dito maglibog. Okay. Now, there are two classifications to the bone. There are two classifications to the bone. First, or mainly among which, is we have a what we call axial skeleton, and we have an appendicular. Okay? Ang axial, class, no? The axial is the one in yellow. Kita mo ning yellow. It basically it is the ones that it consists of our skull, our vertebral column, and our rib cage. Kining nasa tunga, these are the ones. This is what we call the axial skeleton. Whereas we also have what we call our appendicular. Okay, axial kining yellow, whereas ang atong appendicular, class, it is the one in green. Okay? Green. This is mostly our limbs, di ba? Mostly our limbs, no? Atong left and right arm and left and right leg. Now, our appendicular skeleton is divided into two zones. Okay, two zones. The first among which is kining nasa upper, class, no? Kining nasa upper. This one, we call this one, class, our pectoral girdle. Pectoral girdle. Whereas, class, this one here, this is our pelvic girdle. Girdle. It is called girdle, class, because it is this one. It connects, no? It is our what do you call this? Our scapula. It connects towards the rest of the appendages, no? So pectoral girdle. Now, during the time that you are a newborn, usually you have around 300 plus bones, no? Pero ang adult, class, they have 206. Now, why is that? The reason why is because as you grow, mo fuse na sila, class. They will fuse. Okay, the bones will fuse. An example of that is this. Okay, sa newborn class, in a newborn, the skull is divided into 4 regions. Kita mo na? The skull is divided into 4 regions. And it is connected, pamina mo ha, it is connected it is connected to each other using a ligament in the middle called the fontanelle. Okay? Natay duha ka fontanelle class in a newborn, the anterior, which is the diamond-shaped one, and the posterior fontanelle, which is the triangle-shaped one. Okay? Normally, no, as a newborn, dili pa na sila connected. The bones are not connected yet. But eventually, no, as the patient or as the baby, no, grows older, all these 4 bones, they will fuse, di ba? Mupilit na silang tulo. Ang upat, they will fuse together. They will fuse together, and then they will create what we call a suture. Kini, kana suture kana bitaw mura og tahi, no? A suture. Okay? Suture man sa uban si ay, no? And eventually it will become one whole skull, 'di ba? Usara man akabukong imong skull, 'di ba? It's only one bone at that point, no? The top of the cranium. Okay. So, aside from that, no, we have a few more classifications as to our bones. We have our long bones, kini siya class. Long bones, kini siyang in orange, no? These are our long bones. These are usually used for movement. Ang ilang main function is movement, specifically of appendages. When we say appendages, we mean our arms and legs. Okay? We also have our short bones. Kini mga short bones class, no, they help, ang ilang main function is they help transfer force between long bones. Now, si pasabot ni mo na, sir. Okay? Now, look. Ako green ha. Kita ka ning green. These are long bones. Diba? Imo mo na siyang radius and all na. Aside from that, kini siya class, these are also long bones. Diba? Ang imong phalanges. No? Your phalanges. In between those class are our carpal or wrist bones. Okay? Our wrist bones class are short bones. The reason why they are there is because they help transfer force. Bali class, they act as a sort of sort of shock. Mura na sila class og mga what we call shock absorber. Absorber sa kinan ba? No? So when you fall down class, and when you land on your hands, no? The long bones will not take the force, di ba? Instead, they will divert the force, no? If you fall, the force will be moved towards your short bones, wherein ang ilang structure, since they are much shorter, allows it to spread evenly so that it does not break your hands, di ba? Muna siya gamit sa itong short bones. They help transfer force. Now, commonly atong short bones, no, they can be seen in our ankles, okay, or our tarsals and our wrist, otherwise known as our carpals. Okay, carpal bones. Next is we have what we call our flat bones. Okay, flat bones. Ang kini mga flat bones class, no, they are very special. Okay, because they have 2 functions. Dagan-dagan, medyo dagan-dagan po sila class. Okay? If you look at the picture, no, medyo dagan-dagan yun sila, no. The first function is they provides a strong barrier. Okay? I want you to look class. Tanawa class ha. This is a flat bone. Okay, the skull. It protects the brain. Our ribs and our sternum are also considered flat bones. They protect the thorax, the organs in the thorax, katong atong heart, atong lungs, so on and so forth, di ba? Naputay pelvis, kini atong pelvis class, no? The pelvis protects the reproductive system, especially sa females. Okay? Pero sir, sir, they have 2 functions. Yes. Their next function is that they are the common site of RBC production. Okay? Actually, dili ra RBC class, no? Blood cell production. But mostly class no, kadaghanan yun RBC. Okay? Mao na siya no, when we kana mago siya kadong naman ang kanang bone marrow transplant, usually the bone marrow that is being transplanted is are those found in our flat bones. Okay, those found in our flat bones. And lastly no, we have our irregular. Okay, murag ikaw kung dili ka pasar mahimong irregular. I'm just kidding, mupasar lagi ka. Okay. Irregular bones class have specialized functions. Pamiyan. Specialized functions depending on their shape. Okay, as I've said before in anatomy, no, form follows function. For example, class, the maxilla and the mandible, no, their shape is designed specifically so that they are good for crushing. Okay, they are good for crushing. That's why they are used to bite. Okay, or paak na mo paak ba? Bite or incinerate food. No, we also have our spinal cord, our vertebra. Our vertebrae. Our vertebrae is shaped like that so that it can bend. Di ba nga itong vertebrae, it can be straight when we are standing straight. But if we lean down, pwede po siya mo bend slightly. Di ba? No? Aside from that, no, the vertebrae also wraps around. Murap around na siya sa atong spinal cord, which means it is also protecting the spinal cord. Di ba? Okay, next. Bone composition. Now, our bone is composed of compact bone and trabecular bone. Trabecular bone is also known as your spongy bone. Spongy bone. Now, compact bone class, it is very hard and dense. Gahi na siya class. Usually, this is the outer layer when it comes to our bones. Okay? Outer layer when it comes to our bones. Now, kining trabecular bones class, no, our spongy layer, obviously they are much softer, but they are very dense. No, not dense. Dense is the wrong word. They have a large surface area. Okay, surface area increase. Okay, now here's the thing you have to remember about bones class, no. Bones constantly, paminaw mo, undergo what we call bone repair. Bone repair. As such class, ang bone repair class, no, it is replacing old bones with new layers. So balik class, what it does is it will destroy the old layers of bone and replace it with new. Okay? Now there are two cells that accomplish this. First is our There are two cells that accomplish this. First is our osteoblast. And next is our osteoclast. Okay? Osteoblast class, these are the ones that creates new bone. Okay? Whereas osteoclast, these are the ones that destroy old bones. Okay? As much as I would like to go into detail, no, when it comes to bone repair, no, it's quite tedious. It's quite long actually. Task na siya class, no. But this has been discussed in your anatomy before, and if you're really curious, pwede ka mo basa balik sa imong notes. Okay? Now, next, we have the functions of the muscular system. Now, the first function is obviously movement of the body, di ba? Contraction of skeletal muscles are responsible for the overall movement of the body, such as walking, di ba? Running, and kanang maglihok ta, no? Manipulating our objects, no? Next is the maintenance of posture. Skeletal muscle constantly maintain what we call our tone. Okay? Tone class is basically similar to posture. Kana bitong how capable, or the capability of muscles to maintain posture. It is the capability of the muscles to maintain posture. Okay. Next is respiration. When the muscles of the rib cage, no, specifically the diaphragm, specifically when the diaphragm contracts, no, diaphragm contracts, it will allow us to breathe, di ba? It will allow us to breathe, no? Production of body heat, class, no? When the muscles contract, they will produce body heat. Okay? Now, they produce body heat in two ways. First, pamina mo. First, it is through friction, di ba? The muscles rubbing against the layers of the body will cause friction and it will in turn create heat. The second is the use of our ATP. Okay? ATP use, no? Communication is also a function of the muscular system. Our muscles allow us to, and it is not limited to, speak, di ba? We can talk because our throat muscles, no, allow us to speak, our vocal cords. Aside from that, it allows us to write, no? It allows us to gesture, and even provides us with our facial expressions, no? Facial expressions, no? Next is the contraction of the organs and vessels. These are mostly done by our smooth muscle. Smooth muscle. Now, ang kanang smooth muscle, class, no, they are what we call automatic, no, or autonomic. Dili na sila. They are non-voluntary. Meaning to say, they are not controlled consciously by us, but instead they are controlled automatically by the body. Same goes with our cardiac muscle, which is responsible for the contraction of the heart. Okay? Contraction of the heart. Now, balik ta dire. Constriction of organs and vessels. Why does an organ need to constrict? An example of this organ, class, is our, let's say, esophagus. Okay? In order for the esophagus to move food, it needs to constrict. The constriction of the esophagus is also known as your peristalsis. Peristalsis, di ba? If you remember, peristalsis is how it moves food. Unsaon niya pag-move sa food. Okay, ayan. Next. These are the 4 general properties of a muscle. 4 general properties of a muscle. The first is contractility. Okay, contractility. It is the ability of the muscle to shorten forcefully, otherwise known as contract, okay, or to contract, di ba? Contractility gani, shorten forcefully. Next is excitability. It is the ability of the muscle to respond to stimuli. Okay? Mostly, no, kini siya, class, no, mo ni siya ang atong gitawag. This is directly tied to what we call our reflexes. Reflexes, di ba? These are directly tied to our reflexes. Next is extensibility. This means, or this is the ability of the muscle to be stretched beyond resting, muna siya ko na keyword, ha, beyond resting length. Okay? And lastly is elasticity. Elasticity is the ability of the muscle to recoil to its original length. Okay? To recoil to its original length after it has stretched. So if you stretch imo muscle, obviously that is extensibility, di ba? But when you retract it back, it has to recoil back. It's back to its original shape. That is now the property of elasticity. Okay, so we have next is the parts of the muscle, no? In this picture, no? we will discuss first. The first part of the muscle is the body itself. Now, picture na to class, medyo sayo siya class, no? It is showing the body sa bone, but this is the muscle, mga good, no? So, the body is this portion. Okay? This is the main portion of the muscle, and it is the one that has the most contractile power. Okay? Next is the origin. The origin class is, if you remember, balik na diri sa taas, atong tendons, it connects muscles to bones. Okay? Muscles to bones. So, our origin class is the fixed attachment. When we say fixed, this is the non-moving. Okay? Non-moving attachment. For example, class, mo man siyang imong humerus, di ba? And this is the biceps, kini triceps. So, nani siya sa imong arms. Okay? For our biceps muscle class, the origin is the tendon that connects the biceps, kini siya na tendon, to the scapula. Mao ni siya ang imong origin. Okay? Kini siya na tendon. It connects the bicep to the scapula, that tendon. The reason why it is non-moving is that when this muscle contracts, this one will not move. It stays in that area. Di ba? Whereas we have what we call an insertion. It is the point of attachment to the part of the body moved by this muscle. So, yan na siya class. Ha? Mao ni siya nga itong attachment. Ato, balik ko na. This is our attachment. Okay, this is our body. Kini. This one here, the tendon that connects, pamina mo ha, the tendon that connects the biceps to the radius. This is an example of an insertion. Kini siya. The reason why it's called an insertion is because when the muscle contracts, mao na siya ang part nga move. That is the part that moves, di ba? Ang atong origin is moving. Our origin is non-moving. At our insertion class, it is moving. Okay. What I mean by that is this. Tanaw ha, pamina mo. Listen. When the biceps contract, and when we say contract, it will shorten, di ba? Mugamay siya. When the biceps contract, this tendon, the origin will stay in place. Okay, dili na siya move. Whereas our radius, pamina mo, our tendon here, kining atong insertion, since there is a joint here, it will be pulled up. Because, di ba, ni shorten ang atong muscles, it will be pulled up. Because it is pulled up, the arm, it will flex. Ma-move siya, class, di ba? It will be flexed against the joint, di ba? Ang atong joint, class, it will allow the arms to, it will allow the bones to, di ba, move, no? So, because it is being pulled by the muscle at the insertion point, it will flex. Mo-flex siya, no? And same goes with, so that mo na siya, no? That is the reason why mo-move din siya, because when this moves, obviously, this one will compress. Diba? Compression, no? Aside from that, we also have a few other parts of the muscle, mainly among which is our tendons, diba? It is, as I've mentioned before, a means of connecting, a means of attachment, connecting muscle to bone. Okay, mo ni siya, kini mga ngani, tendon siya, diba? We also have our aponeurosis. It is a wide sheet-like tendon. Ang example ng aponeurosis class is keratosis atong palms. That is the reason why when we try to close our palms atong kamot, they all close together. Diba? Because they are pulled like a sheet. Like a sheet. Okay.